All right, let's talk about how the hiring and interviewing process works. It's an interesting topic, and it's one that a friend and I just spoke about a couple of weeks ago as he's looking for new opportunities. And he got a lot of valuable insights from our conversation and that I think would be worthwhile sharing with a larger audience, especially on a topic that I think a lot of people find to be pretty mysterious. Even for me, I find it to be mysterious occasionally when I'm doing interviewing, and I've been doing this a while. So, which leads to a bit of a nice natural disclaimer. It's not black or white. Not every company is exactly the same, but from my personal experience, I've seen this more often than not. And that is that, companies with, 5,000 employees or more, they have a recruitment team. And so whenever a hiring manager like myself has an open rec we need filled, we get assigned a recruiter who helps us with the entire process, from drafting the job description all the way to making sure the candidate signs their offer letter. And so the second kind of piece to that process after the job description is, a recruitment strategy. Where are we going to post? Do we need to pay any money? Can we just get enough, off the various sites that we can post those job descriptions to? Will we get enough applicants for that? And then the third piece, and I think this is where a lot of the insights come from, is what's that interviewing experience going to be like for people? And here I think there's two real approaches that I kind of see. One is kind of the Big Bang approach, where you do 8-9 interviews all in one day. It's just this giant marathon experience, and then you might make it to the next final round, maybe 1 or 2 rounds after that. The other approach is more of a smaller rounds-based approach, and this is one that I subscribe to and I like to utilize because it allows me to be a little bit more judicious with time for my more senior people on the team and even myself, right? I don't really want to waste people's time interviewing candidates that are not a good fit or just don't have the technical skills, right? When we could save that time and be a little bit more focused. And so there's kind of rounds, probably still the same amount of people, just broken up into rounds. So those are kind of the two approaches. Now back to kind of the process at a high level. And once we figure out that with the recruiter, we figure out what that interviewing experience is going to be like, then we move on to posting the job and we start getting resumes back. And one of two things will happen. Someone ultimately needs to screen those resumes. And if the recruiter knows the space, then they will do it for me. If they don't and they're not technically savvy or really can't, add any value to reading a resume in an industry they don't know anything about, then someone on my team will read those resumes and skim through all of them. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's people on my team. Just depends on what the role is and what we're looking for. And so once we get those resumes, I think we generally try to narrow it down to 8, 10, maybe 12 candidates, and we'll set those people up for kind of a screening with the recruiter. And that's generally your first call, is with a recruiter. And they're just going to walk you through probably a 15-minute phone call. It's really just kind of a high-level gut check to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you actually can speak somewhat to the resume and the things you have on that. And they'll ask a few probing questions, just to make sure there's good alignment with, the role and the opportunity that you're applying for. From there, we'll take that candidate pool list and then we'll do our first round. And that's probably going to be 2-3 people on my team, generally speaking. And I don't like to do the panel interviews because I think it's a little off-putting and it takes people out of a natural element. And I'd like to see them be a little bit more natural because I like to focus on the cultural fit side of it. So we do one-on-one interviews more often than not. So you do 2 or 3 of those. And then that group, the first round interviewers will come back and kind of make an assessment and cut that list probably in half to probably around 6, and they'll send it to the next round. This is also a smaller subset of the team interviewing, maybe 1, maybe 2 senior people. They're also looking at the technical skill fit, but they're a little bit more focused on cultural fit and versatility within the team. From there, they'll trim that list down to 3, maybe 4 people, and then they pass it on to me, and that's where I get involved and start doing interviews myself. And again, my focus is now shifting and even a little bit more into the cultural fit, career growth. What kind of job are you looking for? Where do you want to go? Tell me about yourself, and really just want to make sure that you're a good team fit. Because we can train on technical skills, we can't train on culture fit very well, right? So from there, I'll narrow that list down to 1 or 2 people, maybe 3. At the very most, I'll pick 2 and send them to my boss to interview. Sometimes only 1 if I have a strong feeling on one candidate or another, but that's going to the boss, my boss, right? And I always refer to that as the boss's boss interview. So a couple quick comments here on this stage of the process. 1, Depending on the role that you're interviewing with and what level of leaders they are and what size of the company, sometimes this process can really start to slow down. And just let me explain this to you. My calendar and my boss's calendar fills up probably a week to a week and a half out. So if on Monday morning, I'm scheduling for the next Wednesday or Thursday because it's completely booked. So when we think about that from an interviewing candidate standpoint, the process is going to slow down naturally. Personally, as an interviewee, I've had to wait 2, almost 3 weeks to get on a schedule for some senior leader, waiting for them. Oh, they're traveling, they're here, they're this, whatever, all right? The other thing to keep in mind is once you get to that boss's boss interview, for either approach, the big bang, you do them all in one day, or I think the rounds-based approach, once you interview with the boss's boss, you got to kind of realize you're getting pretty far along the process and you're looking pretty good. I like to think that you're in the top 2, top 3 candidates, and it's decision-making time for the hiring company. One other thing that's really important here for you to understand, if you make it to that part, as a hiring manager, I will pick one candidate, I will keep the other candidate warm. Not because we're being mean, but because if the first candidate doesn't pan out for any reason, I need a backup plan. I don't want to start the whole process over again, right? This in its own right can take time because you've got to go back and forth. You've got to get that person pretty much signed and committed to joining the company so that you can say, check, done, I've filled this rec and I'm done. Then you can let the other candidates, the runners up know that, thank you very much for applying, but at this time we're going to be looking forward to a different candidate, right? This process can take time as well, but it's generally not a scheduling problem. And so having been an interviewee in this position, I sat and waited for 5 weeks for the company to let me know where I was at. But at about the 3.5 week mark, I was like, you know what? It doesn't take this long to align schedules with the level of leader that I was interviewing with. I think I'm runner up. And sure enough, 2 weeks later on, it came to fruition. I was the runner up. But I think these are some good insights that at least let you know and give you some sense of perspective on where you're at and how that process is going and what you can expect from it. So again, I hope you got something valuable out of this. I think they're good insights. I know my friend got some valuable insights out of it. And as I said, I hope you did too. Thank you very much for listening and have a nice day.